Hello, and welcome to the Assessment Alchemist, the podcast where we transform the daunting world of assessments into a journey of empowerment and achievement for educators and students alike. I'm Tina Wiles, your guide in this quest to conquer test anxiety and unlock the secrets of effective test preparation. So let's dive into today's topic and discover how we can turn educational challenges into opportunities for growth and success. Welcome to the Assessment Alchemist. And I have been on a break for a bit, but I am so excited to be back to you today with a new episode called Unlocking Calm Science Backed Techniques to Beat Exam Stress. So, over now almost 20 years of working with people of all different um, abilities in high school all the way through professionals, one comment I hear over and over again from people is I can do really well on practice tests. Can do homework, right? And then all of a sudden I get to take the test, and the test doesn't show what I actually know, right? Like it's almost like you don't know why, right? Like, why is the test not showing what I know that I know, right? And this is an extremely common experience. And it all has to do with how stress affects memory. So today, I'm going to go through and explain a little bit scientifically behind what is actually happening when you can't like retrieve that information that you know during an exam. So why is that happening? And then we're going to talk about several ideas of things that you could do that can help you in the moment go from survival mode to retrieval mode. Okay. So let's start off with why this happens. So, like when you're doing homework or practice tests, you're more relaxed. And so your brain can actually access information more easily. Okay. During a test, what happens is pressure and anxiety actually triggers the stress response, which the response is called fight or flight. And I know I've talked about that before, but it can release hormones like cortisol. Okay. Not it can, it does release hormones like cortisol. So, in small amounts, cortisol is very helpful. But as you get too much of it, when you're too stressed, too like anxious about an exam, even if you're not anxious, you're just in the exam environment and you don't feel like you have test anxiety, but you can't retrieve the information that you know, this is what's going on, the stress response. And it can actually interfere with your brain's ability to recall information. Okay. So, why this happens is stress redirects blood flow. Okay. Like in that fight or flight response, your blood flow goes from parts of the brain and body to like places that handle the immediate survival, right? So rather than areas that manage complex thinking and memory retrieval, your body is more concerned with like, am I breathing? Am I safe? Right? Like it goes into protective mode. Okay. So that's even when you know the material, high stress can actually block the knowledge that you have from coming to the surface for you to actually like spit back out onto the test. So we're going to go through a couple techniques that actually can help you with that. Like as I mentioned, the retrieval mode versus the survival mode. Okay. Um, so one thing, I'm going to share my screen here. Um, and I'll read it for those of you that aren't watching the YouTube. One thing that actually my grandmother shared with my father when he would take exams, and I think this is actually some amazing information and kind of mind blowing to me that um like 100 years ago okay, maybe not quite 100 years ago, but that they were using and saying things like this that can actually help. So let me share. Okay. So this first thing is um when you to help prevent that stress response, So before the test, you want to say to yourself 3 times with conviction, something wonderful is happening today. My mind and body are full of energy. Something wonderful is happening today. My mind and body are full of energy. Something wonderful is happening today. My mind and body are full of energy. Okay. So saying that before an exam. And then after the exam, or during the exam, I should say, sorry, during the exam, when you feel like you're under stress, you are having a hard time with that recollection of information that you know. You're having a hard time understanding what questions are asking. Okay, so then to yourself, just repeat silently. My mind is an open channel of wisdom. Think clearly step by step. My mind is an open channel of wisdom. Think clearly step by step. My mind is an open channel of wisdom. Think clearly step by step. Okay. Take a deep breath and then you'll be in the retrieval mode. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. All right. We'll talk about this in just a second. All right. So some other things that you could do. Um, so repeating those mantras to yourself. Okay. Another thing, your breath. And I know I've spoken many times about how important your breath is. And why it's so important is it is one of the fastest ways to bring your body and your mind out of that stress response. Okay. So, what you're going to do is you're going to inhale deeply through your nose, hold, and then exhale slowly, like you're blowing out through a straw. Like, okay. I like to inhale for a count of 3, hold for a second or two, and then exhale slowly for the count of 5. Okay. One way to trigger the relaxation response. Um, Another thing that you could do, and this is something, these are all things that I want you to be able to do during the exam when you're um in that survival mode versus retrieval mode, is to do a quick body scan. So what you're going to do is check in with your body, and actually if you think from your, almost like there's like a shower of water going over you, you want to think from the all the way down to your toes, but think like one at a time, right? And I know it's during an exam, but if you just think like, okay, you're taking a deep breath and you're just like, okay, you're just going to try to relax things. So you're going to think about like, I'm relaxing the top of my head. Okay, I'm relaxing my eyes. I'm relaxing my cheeks, my jaw, relaxing my shoulders, my arms, my hands. Like just scanning to see where you're holding that stress and consciously relaxing those. Okay. So that might be something you want to do before the exam handing out. I know that takes a little bit longer, so it's hard to do when you're in the middle of a problem. But in the middle of a problem, one thing that you could do is a grounding technique. Okay. And sometimes when you're in that stress response, it's almost like you feel like you're too much in your head, or maybe you're finding yourself overthinking a lot of things. You want to use a grounding technique. So you're going to place your feet flat on the floor, feel the ground. You could wiggle your toes. Sometimes you maybe tap your knees. Okay. But you want to ground yourself, right? You're safe. Your body doesn't need to be in survival mode, regardless of what biology tells us. We're not being chased by saber-toothed tigers. You're safe taking an exam. Grounding yourself. And then tapping. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in a minute about tapping, but you can tap on your collarbones or under your desk. You can tap the side of your hand. Okay. And what this does is actually calms the nervous system, okay, and can help bring you into that retrieval state. All right. Now we're going to get into something that is going to feel maybe a little bit out there or woo woo, right? But this is all science backed things. And we're going to talk about something called the emotional freedom technique, or EFT. Other people might call it tapping. Okay. And what it is it's a easy way to calm the body stress response. Okay. And like I said, I know it's going to feel a little woo or out there, but stick with me as I go through this. See how it helps you feel. Okay. So what happens is when we tap, you'll see what I mean in a minute, on specific acupressure points while focusing on certain thoughts. Okay. It sends calming signals to the brain, and uh, can actually help you process the fear and the stress. Okay. So it does a couple specific things. It reduces cortisol levels, which we already talked about. Those high cortisol levels actually make it harder for the retrieval, right? So reducing the cortisol levels is going to help you be able to retrieve your memories, um, and access stored information. The tapping on those specific points I'm going to show in a minute actually activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So, which is what we need to do to bring ourselves out of fight or flight. We want to have our brain in a focused, alert state. Okay. Um, instead of being in high alert, right? When it's in like high alert, that's when we're having problems with the retrieval, right? It's when our body is like, I need to make sure we're living, not necessarily making it through this test. We need to bring our body out of that, right? So this is one way to do that. And it can make it a little bit easier to concentrate on test questions instead of getting stuck in worry or overthinking. Okay. All right, so EFT tapping points. Let me share this. Okay, so there are certain points that we are going to hit. So I already showed one, which was the side of the hand, right? And all you're doing is literally tapping on just the side of your hand. It doesn't matter if it's your left hand or right hand. Okay, it doesn't matter how many times you're tapping, just gently tapping, right? At the side of your hand. The top of a head is another one. Eyebrow, which is right at the end of your eyebrow. Side of the eye is your temple. Under your eye is the top of your cheekbone bone, like the bottom of your eye socket. Under your nose, under your mouth, collarbone, and then under your arm. That's the one that's a little bit unique. You kind of feel like you're doing like a monkey move. Okay, so I'm going to go through and actually say a tapping script out loud so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. And you could save this and come back to it, but this is I'm going to go through things that you could say and think when you're maybe before a test. After I go through this tapping script, I'll give you some things that you'd be able to do during the test to help. Okay. So, all right. So, if you want to try along with me, if you're nervous about a test, okay. So, we're going to start with the karate chop point, and you're just going to repeat after me exactly what I say. Even though I'm nervous about this exam, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I'm afraid I'll forget everything, I choose to believe I can do well. Even though this test makes me anxious, I accept my feelings and trust myself to do my best. Okay, so then we're going to start. I feel a lot of pressure to remember everything. I'm worried that I'll forget important things during the test. This fear makes me feel tense and stressed. I don't want to blank out when I take the test. I feel this anxiety in my body. My stomach is nervous. I'm choosing to release the stress and trust myself. I am prepared and I trust my memory and knowledge. I choose to feel calm and focused for this exam. I'm feeling more relaxed and confident. I know I've studied well. I can trust my memory. I'm calm, capable, and ready for this test. Then you take a deep breath. That's it. Pretty easy. Like I said, I know it feels a little weird copying and saying things that I'm saying. But if that helps, you could actually do it a couple rounds where you go through and do it and see how your anxiety level has shifted. Um, the other thing that we could do, as I said, I know that's hard to do during the test, but you could easily um, during the test like hit that karate chop point. So just under, like, have your hands under your desk. And that's when you're just saying, my mind is an open channel of wisdom. Think clearly step by step. And you could say that while you're hitting the karate chop point. My mind is an open channel of wisdom. Think clearly step by step. My mind is an open channel of wisdom. Think clearly step by step. And that is all. Those are some scientifically proven ways to bring you out of the I can't remember. I know that I know this, but I can't retrieve the memories while you're taking an exam into like the memory retrieval. Okay. So we talked about why that happens, which is really due to biology and cortisol and the stress response that we feel when we're taking an exam versus when we're doing practice or not in the test environment. So even if you don't have test anxiety, you still can feel that stress during an exam. Then we talked through a couple things that you could do during. So your breaths, the my mind is an open channel of wisdom mantra. We talked about doing the body scan and we talked about grounding, um, like feeling that earth beneath you, taking you out of your head. And then we talked about EFT. So I hope this helps. Whether you are taking some professional exams or whether you're preparing for just a normal exam in school, um, this can help bring you into memory retrieval mode. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you on the next episode of the Assessment Alchemist.